Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa Conference. So today's class will be given by His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhu on the topic of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Antya lila, chapter 20 and text number 32 onwards. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Adigada Ramgiridhari Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining and giving us your very valuable time and association to this morning and enlightening us on this topic. Please take over the call now.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So I have a very funny internet connection today. So excuse me, just that I may not be able to turn on my video today. So if that's okay with you all, please.
Yeah, yes, all right, Prabhuji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. So we are reading from Caitanya Caritamrta Antya lila, chapter 20, which is a very last chapter of this wonderful compilation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lila as well as instructions. And this chapter, the Siksashtaka prayers, happens to be the final piece on this master class work of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So we are going to discuss verse number 32 through 35. We'll read the words and try to, churn this nectar. Ainandatanu jakinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavambudo kripaya tavapada pankaja itaduli sadrisham vichintaya. O my Lord, O Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servant, but because of my own fruitive acts, I have fallen into this horrible ocean of nescience. Now please be causelessly merciful to me. Consider me a particle of dust at your lotus feet. Text 33. Tomara nitya dasa moi toma pashariya padiyanchom bavarnave maya bhaddahaya. I am your eternal servant, but I forgot your lordship. Now I have fallen into the ocean of nescience and have been conditioned by the external energy. Kripa kari kara more pada dhuli sama tomara seva ka karun tomara sevana. Be causelessly merciful to me by giving me a place with the particles of dust at your lotus feet, so that I may engage in the service of your lordship as your eternal servant. Puna ati utkanta dainya haila udgamam Krishna tani mage prema nama sankirtanam. Natural humility and eagerness then awoke in Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He prayed to Krishna to be able to chant the Maha Mantra in ecstatic love. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So it's a very happy and wonderful moment to be in the association of devotees. And just by doing these services on a daily basis, we are definitely moving forward in our goal of going back home, back to Godhead. And there's no better process than this to definitely exit the cycle of birth and death. So thank you so much for making me part of this service. And it's definitely a purifying as well as exciting service that I always get from you all. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's going to wind up his earthly pastimes, he is slowly withdrawing himself and trying to go more internalizing. I very clearly remember a particular episode. I wouldn't want to compare it with this current context, but something to definitely state. This was in 2005, June. I was in New York, Rath Yatra. So when we were part of the parade, suddenly a hand, caught my shoulder. And suddenly when I turned, it was His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj. So he asked, "Hey Ramgiridhari, what are you doing?" Because, Maharaj knew me as a guy in Mumbai. So he was surprised to see me in New York Rath Yatra. So I, offered my obeisances and we were discussing. Maharaj had just come from the place where His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was in his final days. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, I'm just telling what Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj told me. I went to see him because he was planning to leave his body. But interestingly, Maharaj has taken a vow not to see anyone. Maharaj had personally requested that after his whatever planned public event to bid farewell, goodbye to everyone, he wanted to go more internalizing, and he didn't want to meet anyone, anything that will make him remember about his activities in this world, both his God brothers as well as his disciples. So I was little, trying to understand how come Maharaj was not given an opportunity to meet. Then, whatever little I understood Siddhanta, and Maharaj also was very nicely explaining, he presented this in a very nice way, saying how His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj wanted to get into the stage of Samadhi, where completely unifying his thought only to remember Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar. And who else but our dearmost His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj did that service to make this happen. Of course, that period is not an ordinary period, because we all learned a lesson. We all witnessed how Siddhanta has to be applied. And we also got something that would have never otherwise happened, where Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj took a vow from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj to compile his life story, so which eventually became a journey home, which I'm sure, it has touched several hearts all over the world. So the point I want to drive home here is, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was trying to withdraw himself and trying to wind up his earthly pastimes, he had Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami by his side. And there are several reasons. Few of them are, he didn't want, because he was already, if you have been following the series, last 3 chapters, we are only talking about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental emotions. I swear, at least if I had been probably 15 years before, or whatever time before, or even now for that matter, to understand this in the right context, struggling, because it's so deep and so profound and so transcendental that from our normal colloquial thinking, this may sound like a drama, this may sound like a too much. But once a person get into the context of practicing serious samadhi, Krishna consciousness, unified, complete, focused Krishna consciousness activity, this is not something very unusual. And because we saw the final days of Srila Prabhupada, because we saw the final days of few of very great living saints, even after Srila Prabhupada, we could at least understand and comprehend what should be, or what has been, the state of mind of a person. Since Mahaprabhu has been playing a role of a Bhakta as well as Bhagavan, so this both ways he is trying to educate and demonstrate. So Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami, they were only allowed, or maybe very, 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 few people were allowed in the very close quarters of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that Mahaprabhu does not get even an iota of distraction from the rasa, the prema, the stage that he was in. And these two gentlemen, time and again Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has glorified, have always understood the mood in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in, and have contributed towards that seva by singing a song, creating the ambience, facilitating that situation. So all glories to them. So with that, that's a background, that's a context that we are in. So we are going to see eventually Mahaprabhu is going to wind up his earthly pastimes, and so do Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's narration on Caitanya Caritamrta. So we will focus on the 6 Ashtaka prayers, which currently Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, focusing on. In fact, in the manifested lila, if at all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given any writings, because every saint like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, so many Vaishnava saints, they have got several literatures given for us. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his lifestyle is itself our education, and this 8 verses of Siksashtakam prayer are his contribution. And I'm sure whoever has been dealing several verses, this Siksashtakam verse, 8 verses have got 8 logical and gradual progression of spiritual consciousness. From Cheto Darpana Marjanam to the 8th verse, Ashlishyava Padaratam Pinastumam. So we once did an entire series on the Siksashtakam. So we discussed how from the very beginning to beginning of chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we were discussing how from Shraddha to Prema, there are several progressive thoughts, thinking that needs to be inculcated. So the Siksashtakam prayers helps us to logically follow that thought process in several capacities. So, but we are going to discuss today only one verse or one context. This verse number 5. Aslishyava padaratam pinastumam adarshanat marmahatam karotuva yata tata vidatadulam pato. Oh, sorry. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam mishame bhavam budav kripaya tava pada pankajastita. So we are going to discuss some reflections around this, where the first and foremost thing that I have related from this current context is about something that, in fact, from verse 4 onwards, the mindset of confession, sadhaka's mindset in his devotional journey begins with him ready to confess, open up his heart towards the Supreme Lord and be ready to be corrected. Because those who are coming from India, those who have been practicing whatever little bit of spirituality, we have always been taught about asking the Lord what he wants, and by we constantly using the Lord, asking the Lord, we forgot to tell what we are up to and how we are situated in our spirituality. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, if you read their prayers and offerings, you will get to see that they would have always pleaded and expressed their difficulties or challenges or their predicament. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making this prayer to teach that in our devotional journey, we need to learn to know where do we stand and able to state it to the spiritual authorities to seek for help. So this prayer is something that helps us to state what I'm finally interested in. There is a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called Vidyara Vilase. In that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that all through my life, I thought that education, status, power, position are going to help me. I will just read 1 or 2 stanzas from the prayer. With great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet. O Lord, now you are my only shelter. Reading on and on, my hopes grew and grew, for I considered the acquisition of material knowledge to be life's true goal. How fruitless those hopes turned out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Now I know that all such erudition is actually pure ignorance. This whole song is actually a very dear prayer that I always look up to, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur taught, demonstrated, and informed us how we all in this materialistic world have been very deeply engrossed in our own lifestyle, that at some point in time we need to come to an understanding that Enechi Aushadhi Maya Nasi Bara Lagi Hari Nama Mahamantra Lao Tuni Magi. There is no other medicine apart from this process of Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So my first reflection is, when I read this fifth prayer of sixth Ashtakam, so I always try to remember this point, saying that confessing ourselves to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and trying to express our heart. I agree, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other, I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Our famous prayer from Bilva Mangala Thakura's Govinda Damodara Stotram. Samsara kupe patito tyagade mohanda purne vishayabhitapte karavalambam mamadehi Vishnu Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So what is he saying? Samsara kupe. Finally I come to realize that this samsara, which I thought is a wonderful playground for me to enjoy, which I am myself thinking still, after 30 years in Krishna consciousness, still thinking that I'm going to get some enjoyment here. Thinking that, as Vidura explains a very good allegory, where a person walking inside the forest, chased by a tiger, fell inside an elephant trap, caught hold of a tree branch, where the tiger is standing on the top, and if he looks behind, inside the trap, a lot of poisonous snakes, scorpions were there. White and black rats were eating the branch. At any point in time, the branch may fall off. Because of that person's hanging, the branch is shaking and there was a honeycomb. All the honeybees are flying and they are stinging this person. And this person may any time give up and finally fall inside that trap. But he's still trying to focus on the honey droplets coming from the home, thinking that that will give me some pleasure. Vidura is explaining this to Dhritarashtra. So, all through my life, I have been thinking, this materialistic life is so wonderful. Many times we get to that feeling, especially the only time we go and cry to Krishna is when we have challenge. The moment the challenge is solved, our immediate attention gets focused to us. As soon as my financial problem is solved, as soon as my health is okay, as soon as my family situations are okay, that moment I get where I get excited and start to, dance. In Vritrasura's pastime, beginning of the Vritrasura's pastime, it all started with Indra trying to just relax or take it easy and ignore certain mannerisms, certain etiquettes. You know, we very funnily say that I finished attending Mangalarti, I finished attending morning Bhagavatam session, I finished chanting my rounds, 16 rounds, I finished attending Caitanya Caritamrta class also. Now I have some personal time for YouTube and Facebook and stars, whatever TV channels that I want to browse through so that I can just catch up a little bit and relax myself before I get into the next course of my agenda. And I'm sure we will have our own justification why we can do this. And we need to be very careful that that's when Kali is waiting for to knock on our doors and very happily enter our heart and do the necessary, messing around. So the point is here this prayer, at least when we come to that stage, when we chanted the holy name of the Lord, when we understood all the names of the Lord have got the same potency, when we understood that what is the frame of mind in which I'm supposed to be chanting, and how life after life I need to do this and nothing else I need, I am ready to confess that all through my life I have actually wasted and simply thought that this material body, material assets and resources are going to be my biggest savior, wealth and accomplishment. So my first reflection hence is, let's all learn, regroup within ourselves, our thoughts, and learn to go to Krishna and Krishna's dearmost servants, with whose help we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, and learn to confess, yes, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, somehow or other, I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Somehow or other, I am missing my seriousness in Krishna consciousness. If I extrapolate in our context, we knew we have fallen into here. But even after falling, what is the local stand-by here? I have fallen into this material trap and realized this is a trap. And somewhere or other, I got the blessings, and time and again, somebody hammered in my head that this is not the place to enjoy. Whilst I'm in the journey to go back home, on the way, I still want to enjoy. Whilst I'm on the way back home, working towards that, I still want to see how best I can exploit this arrangement. So let's learn to confess that propensity. Let's learn to confess that I have that weakness. Let's at least acknowledge that that is something that is not so good. Because modern education has fantastically done one thing to us. It has taught us how to give logical, rational justification to our stupidity. I'm not generalizing this, but in general, if you analyze, whenever we do some nonsense and we try to justify, only when that nonsense is done by us, when the same nonsense is done by somebody else, as preachers, we will sit in Vyasasana and go and whack them. Oh, nahi, Prabhu, Mataji, But when it comes to us, our own practices, so we are constantly in a split personality disorder mode, multiple personality disorder mode. Hence, the easiest way to get rid of that disorder is to somehow or other. Because if you analyze why, there are several more stories will come out. Knowingly I committed, voluntarily committed crime. Several things will come out, but at least we will explain all of those things. Maybe Krishna himself will know that. Krishna wants us to confess. Krishna waited for Arjuna to come and seek directions. So Krishna could have several previous occasions helped Arjuna, But Krishna made sure that one and only when I am enabling my learning, surrender spirit, I will start giving knowledge. I do not want to waste my time, just like that. This is not only Arjuna Krishna. This is also about Devahuti Kapila Dev. This is also about Parikshit Maharaj Sukadeva Goswami. The kind of transformation, the kind of bold decisions that they have taken at a very important juncture in their lives tells that this is needed in our own lives also. The way Srila Prabhupada, the way Ramanujacharya, the way Raghunath Das Goswami, you can list several people how we need to take a bold decision. A bold decision is not just shaving your head off or trying to renounce your family life. The bold decision is to confess to your spiritual master, spiritual authority, to the Supreme Lord, how stupid I was. In my case, how stupid I am still. So this confession is very important, because if I don't express myself in my truest sense, I don't seek for that help. Help is not extended. Even if it is extended, we may take it otherwise. But when I am asking for a help, pleading for a help, repeatedly pleading for a help, at least I am definitely stating what I would really, what I mean business that way. And this is not just some frame of mind only during the challenges. This is a frame of mind for me practicing Krishna consciousness seriously. So that's my first reflection, where I want to say that, as Bilva Mangala Thakura said, Samsara Kupe Paditotya Gade. This quicksand is composed of lust, greed, anger, envy, ego, illusion, pride. And it is definitely going to drown us in. So what I'm saying, I can't help myself. I did try. I have been trying. So what I need is Karavalambam mama dehi Vishnu Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Karavalambam mama dehi Vishnu. I am raising my hands up. So please lift me up from this. So that's the only thing that can save me from this trap. So this is my first reflection in this current context. The second reflection is, as Mahaprabhu expressed here, as narrated here, that when Mahaprabhu was talking, chanting these prayers, is developing a natural humility and slowly getting into that skin of surrender. As you all must have discussed before, this surrender, the principle of Sharanagati, Anukulyasya Sankalpa Pratikulyasya Vajanam. The last one is being humble. So, natural humility and eagerness. How do you show our eagerness? So, we had a series on principle of enthusiasm and eagerness. So, eagerness and enthusiasm are cause and effect. I am definitely eager to practice Krishna consciousness, and I show them by enthusiasm. And according to me, enthusiasm is nothing but consistency in our practices. enthusiasm, sporadically being enthusiastic, is considered as a part of anartha nivritti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura says, the swing both ways, sometimes too extremely devotional thinking, sometimes too extremely materialistic thinking. So that is part of our stages of anartha. So from that perspective, enthusiasm in our Krishna consciousness is, of course, natural enthusiasm for sure, which many times, even as a Kanishta, we would have been enthusiastic. Early enthusiasm. Early enthusiasm is I jump up, yeah, I'm going to Mayapur, I'm going to Vrindavan, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. That is the enthusiasm out of curiosity. But here, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being stated as the Lord's eagerness awoke, thought eagerness to be awakened left in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has been, in transcendental state of mind. But all I want to say is that the more and more and more we go deeper in our devotional sentiments, each of these words have their own definitions. I cannot state definitions in that context of what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in. But at least for sure, I can state that as a practicing devotee, we need to definitely express our enthusiasm by the way of being consistent in our practices. Consistency and stagnancy look alike. So we need to be consistent in our practices. And if we can plot it in a graph, it's supposed to be at least, if not a 45-degree angle line, it should at least be some sort of in that direction. There will be little ups and downs and little spikes here and there, but it should be little directed towards that way. So my second reflection hence is that as I am confessing, as I am surrendering myself to my spiritual master and the Supreme Lord, as I am expressing, as I am crying out, I want to show my consistency. And I want to narrate this consistency by one episode from Advaitacharya's life. Because there are three components that we will be learning as a part of this consistency. Advaitacharya was already upset that people are not taking up spirituality. People are not interested in Krishna consciousness. So Advaitacharya started to pray to his Shaligram, Shila. Somehow, my dear Lord, only you have to come to protect, and you made a promise, so he was reminding the Lord. So, very important to note here is, just because we offer our prayers, it does not entitle us with the result just immediately. Just because I offered prayer, show me the result. Advaitacharya offered his prayers, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended after 50 years. For not 1, 2, 3, for 45, 50 years, Advaitacharya have been praying. So, Sachidanand Maharaj was explaining this. Three things he mentioned. Number one, our consistency or our constant prayers or our endeavor should have a component of detachment. Number two, should have a component of conviction. And number three, should have a component of patience. I, with all endeavor, going to confess to my spiritual master, to the Supreme Lord, because we think, because I confessed, I need attention. Because I never confessed, I have been locking myself. Now I start to confess. I go out and finally stated it out. Yes, I was a stupid. I confessed. So what do we expect? We expect that the Lord respond immediately. If not immediately, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, at least after a week. But here, Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj in 1922. From 1922 to 1977, 55 years or 44 years before ISKCON got established. Yesterday, he had celebrated ISKCON incorporation anniversary. In fact, just before this session, I had a session on continuation of my yesterday's lecture on ISKCON 55 anniversary to our congregation in Mumbai, where we discussed what is ISKCON. Will ISKCON be there for next 10,000 years, because Srila Prabhupada's books are going to be the law books for the next 10,000 years for spiritual learners. Who is an ISKCON member, and are you an ISKCON member, and what do you do for you to be an ISKCON member? What are the 5 or top priorities that we need to set for ourselves to spread this Sankirtan? We discussed several points. So one of the points that we discussed is how ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's body. Srila Prabhupada said that I have shed a gallon of blood to make a person devotee, and I have built a house in which the whole world can live. But doing all these things, he waited and endured. And waited doesn't mean that he's just waiting for some miracle to happen. He kept on working, strategizing, planning, preparing. And finally, by the time the whole world could recognize, it was already 44 years. In the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a very clear-cut 10 years where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, all he did was, every day he used to have a japathon, more than 100,000 names of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As a sankalpa, he took 10 years of this brata before he actually started out to go out and preach as a lion guru. The reason I'm mentioning this is for all of us who are interested in being a soldier in the Sankirtan mission. We need to understand, just because we confessed, just because we surrendered, just because we are enthusiastic, just because we are quote unquote in our own capacity consistent, we may not able to see the result today. So let us not get disheartened. In fact, that is the further lessons in Siksashtaka you will be learning. Of course, in a different sense in terms of prema and other things. But Krishna definitely acknowledge at every point in time, what are we, how are we up to? So my second reflection hence is about being consistent in our spiritual practices. And in that consistency, we show the enthusiasm in our prayers, in our surrender, in our submission, with detachment. Why detachment? Because what you may desire, what you may think that this is how Krishna should be responding, he may not be responding in that manner. Krishna may respond in a completely, a different way. In teachings of Queen Kunti, Prabhupada writes in one of the purport, or maybe teachings of Lord Kapila, I don't remember exactly where. Srila Prabhupada writes that my business was doing okay. Everything was smooth. Suddenly one fine day I saw everything started to collapse. And then very soon I saw how I was already executing the orders of my spiritual master. So the message here is that be detached. You may opt to do certain service or certain contribution in a particular way, but Krishna may have his own respective free will, his own strategy to fix us. So be detached, but be convinced that Krishna will. Rakshishyati Vishvaso, and with dhairya, with patience. So this is my second reflection. The third reflection, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his prayers expressed, that I forgot your lordship. I have fallen into the ocean of nescience and I have been conditioned by the external energy. As we just read in the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we need to be wary as to what we are leaving behind, because the problem for us to have been in this materialistic context is because we forgot Krishna. We have fallen into this trap of material energy. So I was discussing yesterday in my the other session, where we may be very happy to say that, Prabhu, I have done my chanting. I have followed my sadhana. So there are two mindsets. A mindset of a duty-bound citizen, mindset of a soldier being part of an army. A duty-bound citizen will always say that I followed my rules and I am definitely happy to be claiming as a loyal one. And to begin with, that's great, glorious, and good enough. But looking at the mindset of the acharyas, looking at the urgency the acharyas have shown, the push that they have given, we have heard, I have heard for several times from Jayapataka Maharaj this, there was always a sense of urgency in Srila Prabhupada. He wanted, of course, there are certain things that Srila Prabhupada knew that he did too early, just to ensure that before he winds up his pastime, he at least create certain framework for us to function on, so that the next 10,000 years, the Sankirtan mission can, flourish. So the point is that we all have definitely, accepted Krishna consciousness to be a very good, loyal citizen. But these prayers, when I say that I forgot, I fallen into this, why I'm screaming? Because I did this, you also don't do it. So by your own role modeling, by your own, life's lessons, let's win all the others, because we are not the only one. Many other people are like us. So it is our duty to elevate ourselves from being a duty-bound citizen to a very good soldier. Of course, moment I commit myself to be the soldier, from the state of soldier to the state of being a chief, captain, or the topmost rank officer in the army, there are several gradations. But at least the character that we need to show from a citizen to a soldier, not just as a formality your state is forcing you to be, but by a choice that you want to be in. Of course, the modern day army and stuffs have their own reasoning, and even there also there are a lot of commitments required. But what to speak of elevating ourselves, upgrading ourselves from being a simple duty-bound sadhaka to a soldier in the army of Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. And what does a soldier do? A soldier does 4 things, or several things. But in this context, what I want to say is, a soldier is disciplined in his own practices, which we spoke about. A soldier is definitely want to keep his ideas aside to work for a mission, because, oh, I want to, have this arrangement. I want to stay in this particular place. No, you cannot have your choices. And I know when I'm getting into the army, I will have the place that they asked me to live. That's where I am supposed to live. The place where they asked me to go, that's where I'm supposed to go. I don't have a choice. I mean, in general, they will give you choices too, but in general, it's within the, framework of the army structure. So I am leaving behind my personal choices. And third, I learned to cooperate amongst my buddies, because amongst them, if you do not cooperate, you don't coexist, co-functioning amongst each other. And finally, and the most important thing is, I'm ready to take instructions. Somebody will tell what I'm supposed to, and I'm supposed to follow without any arrogance. Who is this guy coming and telling me what I'm supposed to do? We don't say that. And if we keep doing this, we grow up in the ladder one day to win several people's lives, even in the normal materialistic army context. In Krishna consciousness context also, when I'm screaming, I forgot about the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he wrote this, he's saying that, please, many people thought me, I'm a, magistrate, I am this, I am that. All the profiles I got. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is definitely teaching us. But let us emulate that state of mind. We have been successful, we have made money, we have houses, we have car, we have accomplishments, we have resources, we have power, we have people following, we have beauty, we have whatever intelligence, we have also followers. And nowadays, our followings are measured by the number of Instagram viewers and likes and dislikes and several things. So we have all of those things, all those accomplishments. But then, what it all tells is, am I a soldier yet in the army of Sankirtan mission? So when I read this verse, this particular prayer, when Mahaprabhu is saying, I'm your eternal servant, but I forgot your lordship. So it is like he's stating to us, please note, we all have forgotten. So please go and tell others not to forget. Please make sure that you wake people up. Everybody is in slumber, shake them up so that they can come up to practice devotional life and not waste this human life. When the whole village is sowing the seed, you don't sleep. You also go and sow the seed. Otherwise, when they are reaping the crops, you'll be thinking that, oh, I didn't get my crops, and you'll get envious. That's what people are doing. When everyone is doing their own duty, you slept. When everybody is getting the result, you are now going and longing, oh, shayad mujhe bhi mila hota. That I also had got that. Oh, when will I get that? We always speak to children and sometimes explain this, that because of watching movies, we want fast track result. Because in movies, within 2 hours, somebody would have been a pauper to a multi-millionaire, and to have wooed a girl to eventually marry her. Nobody would show after that. And also within a very short time, Prabhupada says this ideology is called Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. In the book called Second Chance, Srila Prabhupada writes, a person who had a duck which can lay a golden egg, and half of the money, by selling that golden egg, goes in feeding that duck. So this guy thought that half of the money is getting lost, so I will get, I will not need the front portion of the duck, which is my expense department. Let me cut that portion and throw the duck away, so that I'll only get golden eggs every day. So similarly, if people are very categorically accepting spirituality in their lives, what is convenient, what is needed, what is convenient and what is that they like, and forget what is needed. It's called Ardha Kukiti Nyaya. So we have to go out and shout. Wake up, sleeping souls. Wake up, sleeping souls. Jeev jago. Gaura Chanda bole. How long you will be sleeping on the lap of Maya? Kota nidra. Jao Maya. Pishachira kole. Ene chiyo shadi Maya. Nasi baralagi. Harinama Mahamantra Lao Tumi Magi. So this is only medicine. So my third and last reflection was about we going out and upgrading, elevating ourselves from being a dutiful citizen to a responsible soldier. I am not saying that we should become a responsible captain in the army. That's, oh, tomorrow I should become a Parivrajaka. That's not the aim. But that's eventually the desire of Prabhupada is to make us all Goswamis. But Goswami is not about position, it is about the consciousness. So even if you are a soldier and being a very, noble, saintly person, that's we will bring in a smile in Srila Prabhupada's face. But please be part of the army of Sankirtan mission rather than just be a praja, just be a duty-bound citizen. So when we are pleading like this, when we are craving like this, when we are offering such prayers like this, we definitely tell the Supreme Lord, we definitely tell the whole world, definitely tell everyone, wake up, sleeping souls, please get up and come and be part of this mission. Because acceptance of Krishna consciousness is a rarity. Understanding, to analyze and absorb Krishna consciousness is very difficult. Understanding Krishna consciousness is special, but application of Krishna consciousness is divine. So for us to apply Krishna consciousness, we need to definitely show some character. And nowadays, the current generation need Krishna consciousness applied and shown, not just taught. So Krishna personally is coming and doing that. As Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to reveal, he came to empower us, and he came to tell us the spiritual process is not being taught. The spiritual process is you have to learn to grow up the ladder, eventually get into the spiritual abode. So with this, I would like to end my session, and we discussed 3 reflections with the context of how Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to wind up his earthly pastimes. And as a part of 3 reflections, we spoke about how we need to learn to confess and how we need to show some consistency and how we need to show ourselves to elevate to the platform of being a soldier and call out and shout out and let people join the Sankirtan mission. By that, you can do the role of a beautiful servant as well as win more and more souls and bring a smile in the face of our spiritual authorities. Thank you so much. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments? We can discuss.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving your very enlightening class and grateful, precious time to them. And we are very grateful to you. We look forward to your association again in future. So, Prabhuji, you're going to take some questions. If anybody have any question, please go ahead. Hare Krishna. Devotees, if you have any question, please go ahead. Prabhuji have explained very nicely. It's like because you have explained very nicely, clearly, so Nobody has any question.
You're all very nicely doing this service. I'm very happy that such a consistency in your service definitely will bring a smile on the face of Srila Prabhupada. So wish you all the best in your spiritual endeavors. If there are no questions, probably we can end the session.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and the pranams, all glories to Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhuji, no questions, so even I was silent, but really want to appreciate the way you churned, especially Chaitanya Leela pastimes, and you bring out so wonderful reflections from them. So thank you, Prabhuji, thank you, and all glories to your services. And I really like the point that you mentioned that how Prabhupada, this ISKCON is actually the body of Srila Prabhupada, and how Prabhupada made this one house for all of us so that we all can stay together as brothers and sisters, as relatives, as friends. So that was really wonderful. Yes, we do appreciate Prabhupada family. This is our own family. Even our friends and relatives, what real family we have, we cannot have that much of faith and trust which we can have with this Prabhupada family. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. All worship to Prabhupada.
Vancha kalpatarubhyas. Let us pay our obeisances to Sri Ramgiridhari Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ramgiridhari Prabhu ji ki jai.
Ki jai.
Small announcement that we are starting Bhagavad Gita classes from today, 18 chapters in 18 weeks. So it is for the beginners and also who already know about it also can join. It's completely free. We are sharing the link also in the group, in the WhatsApp group. How to register it? Please register and please to join. Hare Krishna.
Oh yeah, it's tomorrow.
Today, Mataji, it's today. Yes, doing it on every Tuesday.
Yeah, it is today. Yes, it's starting today, Mataji.
It's today. Oh, okay.
Yep. Mataji, did you share the link in the Mataji? We'll be sharing in the main groups also. Today I'll be sharing after some time.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to join. I don't know.
I think Indu Mataji shared the link.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, this is what he's saying. I don't know.
Yeah, Mataji, to register the name, you can click on that so that you can register.
Indulekha Mataji has already shared the link on which you can register. So you can register. The class will start from 7:20 CST, and for EST timings, it will be from 8:20 p.m. onwards. Okay, Vinita.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for answering.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna. Closing the call for today.